Okay, so the question we have today is, how do you plan a wedding or another party in a kosher way if your family disagrees? So, fortunately, the question of kashrut in food is less of an issue nowadays because we have plenty of kosher restaurants and caterers, wedding halls, and even people that are not observant often do kosher food parties because majority of places are, and plus they want to accommodate the guests that are observant, so they will have kosher party in terms of food. However, there are other issues that can make the party not kosher. And the biggest of them is the non-kosher music and non-kosher dancing, which means non-kosher music is any music where the singers are women, and non-kosher dancing is any dancing where men and women dance together. Even if they don't dance with each other, but they dance without a mechitza, where men can observe women. If men can see women dancing, then the women are not supposed to dance, and men are not supposed to watch them. And of course, men cannot dance together with women. Not only they cannot touch each other, but certainly, all the more so, they cannot dance together. So what do you do if you are organizing such a party or you're invited to such a party? If you're invited to such a party, it's less of a problem for you. You can always either excuse yourself from going at all, or you can go just to say Mazal Tov or to stay until dancing begins. So if it's wedding and you really have to go, you can go just for the chuppah. If it's a kind of...
You can't sit at the, even if you're not dancing, you can't sit in the hall.
I'll get there. So if you can avoid going to such a wedding altogether, it's better. If it's a distant relative or a friend and you know that it's not separate wedding, then it's better not to, because by going you're showing support to that idea, to what they're doing. And even if you're leaving later, not everybody will recognize that you left. They will think, yes, we saw religious people at such a wedding, must be, it's okay. And then later they will say, we also want to do such a wedding because all the religious people come anyway. So even going to a chuppah or even a reception, if you can avoid, you should avoid. However, if it's a close family or friend that's going to get upset and it will spoil the relationship, then you can go for the beginning, either the reception and the chuppah. However, preferably you shouldn't stay for the meal. If you decide to stay for a meal, you should only stay until dancing begins, and afterwards either leave completely or, in the worst case, just step out. It's better to leave completely, because if you just step out and then you come back in, people again don't realize that you just stepped out. They think that you stayed inside the whole time. Maybe you even danced. And even if they see you not dancing but just sitting, that becomes the norm, and they say, fine, we're going to make such a wedding, and all our religious cousins and friends are going to come, and they're just going to sit. Well, they're not going to dance. So it becomes permissible to do it. And that itself is a problem, to show bad example. And number two is, as I said in the beginning, men are not supposed to watch women dancing. And so even if they're not dancing with them, they're not supposed to watch it. And not only you're not supposed to participate and give a bad example that, yes, I am for it, and therefore I'm in the room, but more than that, you yourself not supposed to be observing it. And then that creates an issue for a woman who says, yes, I'm not going to dance with another man, I'm just going to dance by myself. But that's a problem, because she cannot dance in a place where men are observing her. So as far as giving a bad example. It's a problem both for men and women to just sit there. In terms of watching, it's only a problem for men. Women are allowed to watch other women or other men dance. So if they have to stay and they will be watching, for a woman it's less of a problem, but for a man he cannot watch. So what some men do, they sit with their back to the dance floor, and again that solves the problem that they're not watching women dance, but again their presence there gives legitimacy to the whole event, and that is a problem. So again, if you are invited to such an event, you should try to politely get out of it. Either say that you're not available that day, you're busy, you have another party to go to, you're at work. That would be the best. If it's a close family, then you go, preferably just, yes, you just go for the chuppah reception and maybe beginning of the meal, or in between when there is no dancing, and then you either step out or you leave completely. That's the proper thing to do. Now, the yes.
I've been to religious weddings where male photographers go to the woman's part of the chuppah to photograph them.
Yes,
How does that work?
some people ask, what about a male video guy or male photographer who is taking pictures or videos of women? So for that we have a special rule that a man who is involved in his job, in his business, he is allowed to look at women, he is allowed to work with women. And whether it is a doctor, whether it is someone in jewelry who needs to look at women, deal with them, speak to them, that is permitted, because we assume that a person who is busy taking care of his money matters, of his customers, he will be occupied with that and he's not going to be thinking about improper thoughts. Of course, those that are more careful, they get 2 photographers. It's not required, but there is such a stringency that a man takes pictures and videos of the lady's side, and a woman of a man takes pictures of the man's side, and a woman of the lady's side. But it's not required, and often only one photographer does both. However, for somebody who is not working, somebody who is not a caterer, mashgiach, or waiter, and not a photographer, for him to watch women dance is not allowed.
Matter if they're Jewish or not Jewish. Like, it's better to get a non-Jewish photographer so that at least you're not ruining the eyes of Jewish men. I don't know.
That's true. In such a case, it's better to get a non-Jewish photographer. But again, this is not required. Even a Jewish photographer is allowed to take pictures of the ladies' section. Now, the more complicated question is, what if you are organizing a party, a wedding, and you would like to make it more kosher, you would like to make separate dancing, and you would like to wear a modest dress, and your parents or your grandparents or your siblings or your cousins are pushing you not to have a kosher wedding, not to have separate dancing, and not to wear a modest dress. This is unfortunately a common occurrence. The food is kosher, the groom is religious, the bride is religious, and she wears not modest wedding gown. And the parents beg her, just one time do a favor to us, wear an open dress. Just one time after the wedding, we don't care, but just for us. And often they cannot overcome this struggle and they give in. And otherwise, religious boy and a girl are dancing half naked with other men and women, unfortunately. And that is something that shouldn't be done. And let's speak about what can we do to avoid this problem with ourselves, how not to give in to such pressure from your parents or relatives. So the first thing is, if you would like to do something on a higher level than your parents, it's very important to not be alone, to get help, to get other relatives and friends on board who can support you. For example, if you can identify cousins, siblings, other relatives that are also religious, and they would also be happy if there was separate dancing, you should speak to them privately and make a plan how they're going to speak to their parents, and you're going to speak to your parents, and they're going to convince their parents to speak to your parents, and they're going to speak to your parents, to create a lot of noise and talk about this, to show your parents that you're not a single voice, and other people will either be happy or upset if the wedding is kosher or not kosher. And often that helps. And I've witnessed cases where at the beginning the parents wanted to have mixed dancing, and because of the consistent pressure from the children and the cousins, they gave in. And sometimes what happens is that another less than ideal but still an option is to convince them to have at least the first dance separate. And you can again do that by pointing out that if the whole wedding is mixed, then your religious cousins and the rabbis and your friends and your teachers from yeshiva are not going to be able to participate, and you really want them to participate. And if your parents can at least accommodate them for the first 20 minutes, there should be a mechitza. If
So is that okay? I've seen that where first half hour, the first hour, if you're lucky, is separate.
yes,
But
of
then-
course, ideally the whole thing should be separate, but if you see that you cannot win this battle and it's either going to be their way or no way, then you can try the second option of at least the first half, so that at least part of your wedding is with Kiddusha, and part of the wedding the rabbis and again the religious people can participate, and at least you'll have something to show your grandchildren. You can cut out the non-kosher parts and show them the kosher parts. That's another point you can make to your parents, that I'll have to throw out the video and my children are going to know how our wedding went. At least let us have part of it kosher to save for future generations.
Is the husband allowed to watch his wedding video where the woman dancing? Is he allowed to watch his wedding video?
After the wedding, preferably whoever is making the video, he should make either not have the part where women are dancing, because again, who knows who is going to be watching it in the future. And if he does, men shouldn't be watching those parts. Either they should close their eyes, step out, or skip that part, or later you can cut that out.
Women shouldn't have videos of themselves dancing after the wedding, so why would the photographer even go in?
If he just wants to create a private video just for the parents,
So
or
the father's gonna watch his daughter dance, is that okay?
he can watch his daughter dance,
Okay.
but not
So
anyone else
So
dance.
sons, daughters, grandchildren, they can all see.
Again, if the daughter is dancing only by herself with her mother, then her father can watch,
Oh, but he-
and her sisters. But if it's already friends and extended family, then no man can watch.
Right.
Pictures are okay?
Pictures are better because it's less attractive.
Okay.
So the person who is making the video should also preferably be knowledgeable person that understands the requirements of religious family, so that he shouldn't video women dancing, or he shouldn't put it into the video, or he should make two videos, one for women and one for men.
So in the beginning, sometimes you do separate choras, like the women do it separate and the men do it separate. So that's okay, even though there is no mechitza?
There should be mechitza. If the women are dancing, there should be mechitza.
Because we went to one even of the schools, yeshivot things that they had, and there was no mechitza, but the women danced separately and the men danced separately.
Yeah.
Were there like
Yeah.
separate corners?
Once women are dancing and men can see, then there needs to be a mechitza. Not only for those that are dancing, but even those that are sitting. And then those men that are sitting on the side where they can see women dancing, they should move to the men's side, right? And when you designate seating, that's another issue. How will they sit?
Right.
It's okay halachically to put close family, both men and women, by the same table, let's say aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters and cousins. It's okay if they're together, but it creates a problem, because when the women start dancing and men and women are together, then some men will inevitably end up on the women's side and they will be observing. And if they are knowledgeable, they'll move to the men's side. But if not, then the women that are dancing are not supposed to be dancing if there are men on their side.
But there's a way to do mixed seating and just have maybe a separate area for women's dancing where there are no seats.
Yes, so either you make a
Box.
box, which is not ideal. It's usually small and it's far away and doesn't feel good. It's better to either keep the seating separate or keep some tables just men, some tables just women, and some tables mixed for those that really want to sit in mixed seating. And then you ideally should put those on the men's side, so that those men that are and usually those that sit by tables with mixed seating, they usually don't dance anyway, which means they're going to just be sitting and watching. And if they are on a women's side, that's a problem, both for those that are dancing and for themselves. So again, the easiest is to have separate seating as well. If you need to have mixed seating, you should designate some tables as mixed for those that specifically want to be at a mixed table, and put those tables on a men's side so that they don't watch women dance.
Where do we see this halacha? Where do we see this from?
They came out of Mitzrayim, no? That Miriam took the women to one side and
Where's the source?
Yeah, whether it is whether the source is in Torah or in prophets, or it's a custom that Jewish people took upon themselves, it doesn't really matter. The modern rule for religious people is that women dance separately. Women don't dance in areas where men can watch them, and this is what needs to be done. Again, if a family is not observant or they're not fully observant, then they do whatever they want. But that doesn't make it right. The right.
You're the only one in the family who's observant, the rest are not.
Right. So if you are the only one, it's the hardest. If you can bring your fiancé on your side and let him support you, that's good. If you can bring your cousins on board, if you can bring your friends and rabbis to speak to your family and to show them that there are many people who would like to have separate dancing and singing, it's going to be easier for you. About the dress, that's very important, because everybody is looking at the color at the wedding, by chuppah, as she's going to the chuppah, on the dance floor, as everybody is looking at her, and most of the pictures are going to be of her. And of course, she is the most beautiful on that day, and all the men are going to be attracted, and it's going to ruin, chas v'shalom, their shalom bayit, their spiritual health, and their children, chas v'shalom, are going to be negatively affected by all the improper looks that she's going to receive at the wedding. So it's very important to get a beautiful dress, but a modest dress, that the parts of her body that are supposed to be covered should be covered, and it shouldn't be so attractive to the eye that the men that look will think improper thoughts of her. So again, the kala should be stronger. It's her wedding after all. And in some cases, those that are strong, the parents say, we're making the wedding for you, so you be quiet, just listen to us, because we're paying for it. So if the kala or the chatan are strong, they can say, really, you're not making this wedding, this fancy wedding for me, you're doing it for your own honor. You're doing it for your friends and your relatives to show that you're not worse than them. If it's up to us, we're going to make a simple wedding, just invite our friends and close family, make it in a cheap Ashkenazi style, and it's
20 people. That's it.
yeah, and it's going to be so inexpensive that we're going to make money on it.
So really, mom and dad, it's all for you.
Right. So really, the child shouldn't feel lost and without a way out, because really, if it would be up to them, there would be much less headache. Everything would happen quicker, with more dignity, with more spirituality, with more kedusha, and instead of being in debt afterwards, they would actually, after all the gifts, they would actually have some money left.
What if like parents are meeting and there's like they want to discuss the date of the wedding and like they're discussing it for like very long? Does the couple have to say like, no, we want earlier?
Yeah, this whole approach is incorrect, because again, in olden times, when the boy and the girl got married as soon as they became mature, 12, 13, so of course they couldn't make their own wedding, so the parents made the wedding for them. Nowadays, when the boy and the girl are in their late teens or early 20s or late 20s, there is no reason for the parents to be making these decisions. The children are mature enough, old enough, and financially stable to make these
They
decisions.
can't make a wedding. I'm saying to have the wedding date. They're like, oh, they want to.
So the wedding date is part of it. You have to get married when it's good for you, when it's convenient for you, when it's both proper for your calendar, for your job and for your college, and for your friends and for your family. You can, of course, be accommodating to your relatives and your parents, but the main person at the wedding is you. And of course, you have to treat them with respect, but they cannot force you just because they're paying. Again, you don't need their money. You can make the wedding without their money. Again, it's going to be a better wedding, more happy wedding, more holy wedding. So you have to understand it first of all. This way it's going to be easier for you not to fall prey to their demands, and you will be able to convince them better if you understand that you're thankful to them, that they raised you, you appreciate everything they've done for you, you love them and respect them, but for certain things that are important and really they're not their decision, they're your decision, they shouldn't take it away from you.
I'm sorry, Rabbi Yuhanan. I guess my question is, I don't know, to this and just overall, it's like, being religious already in one way separates you from the family. And when they have these events, if it's just parties or weddings, whatever, birthday parties, and they have mixed dancing, and it's already like you're different from them.
Mhm.
You come by their house, you don't eat if you come by their house when they get together. So it's like I just had an event recently for a family member where my husband was like mixed dancing. My husband said, "I'm not going." I said, "I want to go because I want to maintain family ties." They come to our events where we have a kosher style event, and I want to maintain family ties, and I'm going to come to show support for them. So I ended up coming myself. Rosh Hashanah was in a glad kosher place. I was able to eat, but I didn't dance the whole time. But at the same time, now it's like, you know, if it's a wedding, I don't know. It's like, well, where, you know, you want to maintain the family, the relationship. So it's like if I don't go to your events, then it's, I don't think they'll say I won't come to your events, but you just don't feel the closeness anymore. And it's like now you're just like further and distant apart. Oh, she's the one that doesn't do this, and it's like that's not religion. Also, religion is unity. So I'm not saying to do the wrong thing, although I guess this is the wrong thing. Then I don't know, like, because growing up, my family was always together, and then becoming religious, it's like I'm singling myself out,
Yes,
and
yes.
that doesn't feel good.
Yes, it's a difficult situation to be in, and it's a situation that is very common, and all of us experience it. You have to look at it long term. Sometimes you're right. Short term, it's better not to fight. It's better to keep close. But long term, usually it works better when you have rules and you keep to them, and those that have rules stick to them, and those that don't have rules, they adjust themselves to be able to communicate with those that have rules. So since they don't have rules, they can come to your parties. And when they make their parties, they have a choice to make it kosher and have you there, or not to make it kosher and not have you there. So you shouldn't feel that I'm the one that I'm separating myself from my relatives. It's really their choice. If they want to keep the family together, they can make it in a glad kosher restaurant, and they can make it with kosher music, and they can make it with either mechitza, or at least now men dance, now women dance. Separate dancing, either with mechitza or at different times. And the fact that they choose not to shows that the family is not important for them. Unfortunately, they don't think about it like that. They think that since I'm doing it, everybody has to come and support me. But if they know that certain people in my family will find it offensive and will not be able to participate, they have to make a choice themselves. And they don't think about it like that, but you have to point it out that really the choice is by you, not by me. I have rules. You don't have rules, so you have this choice. I don't have this choice. And your choice is, do you want to keep family together? Then make an event that everyone will be able to participate in. And by making an event that will exclude the religious people, you show that you don't care about the family. Dancing with someone else's wife or someone else's husband is more important for you than having your cousins or maybe even your daughter at your event. And they may be shocked by it and maybe upset at you, but that's the truth. And most of them really don't care about the family. They only care about what people are going to say, about their own honor. And they are the ones that are dividing the family.
Right, and then we get stuck like words.
And they're blaming you for it.
Doing the right thing.
Yeah, but I had an incident where I went to a party. Okay, it was mixed. I just went myself. And it was during the time where you're not supposed to listen to music. But the place, the Omer. So the place was a kosher restaurant. So they're like, why are you not dancing? Well, A, I'm not going to dance because it's mixed dancing. Second, it's Omer. You can't listen to music. Well, it's a kosher place. Why did they play music? So they basically pin it on something else. If this is a kosher facility, glad kosher, then they should follow to the rules also. So they don't know a lot of times what this is. So they're like, oh, the restaurant does it, that means it's permitted.
Right.
So how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Yes. If you come to
Where's the mashgiach?
right. If you come to a restaurant that serves kosher food, but they don't supervise the parties, it could be a fault of the hashgacha, but it also could be the fault of the restaurant owner. The hashgacha is limited in its power, and some hashgachot specifically only supervise the food and nothing else, and some hashgachot try, but just like the owner can trick the mashgiach and he can sneak in non-kosher food, the owner can also trick the hashgacha and have non-kosher, not food, but non-kosher parties with mixed dancing and music at times when they're not supposed to have. And the hashgacha might never know about it, and even the mashgiach might not know about it, because again, the hashgacha is not always present there, and the mashgiach is supposed to be there 24/7 whenever the store is open, but the mashgiach sometimes is not so knowledgeable. He might know the few halachot about to check the labels, that it should be the kosher label, not to mix meat and milk, but he might not know the laws of Omer or the 3 weeks. So the mashgiach, just out of ignorance, might allow it without informing the hashgacha. And sometimes it's the financial pressure from the customers or the owner that force the mashgiach and the hashgacha to do things that are not proper. So if you explain it to them that either the hashgacha only says the food is kosher, nothing else, the rest is up to people, what they want to do. So again, coming back to your question, what to do if you have to make a choice between your family or religion. So if you look at it long term, it's like the case where the father called his son on Friday and he said, "My son, I work on Shabbat, you know, but the doctor told me that I have a heart condition and that I shouldn't be working. So tomorrow is the busiest day. I will not be able to go because my doctor said I shouldn't. It's dangerous for my health. So you go and work for me on Shabbat. Because you have the mitzvah of kibud av v'em, and because it's pikuach nefesh. If you don't go to work for me, I'm going to go out to work against my doctor's orders, and if I get heart attack or if I die, it's going to be your fault." So what is the proper, this is a real case that was asked.
It's nice knowing that. What are you going to say?
Should the son go to work on Shabbat to save his father's life or not?
No, it's not a imminent danger. Like he's not gonna
It's
die
just
right now.
manipulation. Yeah.
It really is manipulation.
So
You can't go against God's word.
right, so of course you shouldn't. And even if you know that your father cannot leave his business alone and he will go, and you know his condition and you know that it's very likely that he will die,
Oh my God.
you still cannot go. Why? Because this, you have to look at it long term. And if you go once, he's going to say, that's it. From now on, you have to start working every Shabbat. Because any Shabbat that you don't go, I'm going to go, and that Shabbat he's going to die.
Oh my God, Rabbi, you're so okay. Straight to the
So the son has to know that when a person is bringing the death upon himself, you don't have to desecrate Shabbat to save him. He has a choice not to go out and work. You don't have to go and work on Shabbat to save somebody who on purpose wants to desecrate Shabbat and he's pushing you on it. So here the same thing. If you give in and you go and participate in such parties and you sit there and you mingle with them and you keep your family ties together, it's going to become the norm, and they're going to say we don't have to do anything for them because they're the kind of religious people that are okay with it, and we're going to make regular parties and they're going to come anyway. And for long term, you're choosing that as the norm, and for the rest of your life and your children's future, you will have to participate in these parties. Whereas experience shows that if you politely explain to them that you cannot participate in these events, and you only come for the kosher part of it, then they will try to accommodate. If they don't accommodate you, and if they get angry, and if they push you out of their life, then it's not your fault. It's not your problem. You politely were just following your rules, and it's their inflexibility, their stubbornness, their lack of care for family that caused it. Because everybody would understand if you have allergy to peanuts, let's say, and they say we're going to make baby shower with a theme of peanuts. Everybody get dressed as peanuts and everybody bring peanuts and we're going to throw peanuts at each other. And you would say to them, I'm sorry, I cannot come to that. It's against my rules. I don't go to parties where you have peanuts. And they say, no, but it's for your family. Don't distance yourself. Come, you're fanatic. You're separating the family. If you don't come, we're not gonna talk to you. Everybody understands that they are the ones that have to be either accommodating or forgiving, and you don't have to give in to your own detriment.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
So too over here, if you have certain rules and allergies to immodestly dressed people and improper music and non-kosher food, they have to accommodate you or be forgiving to your behavior. And if they insist, then they are at fault for being not understanding, for being selfish.
So you have to ask when they invite you, who's going to be the singer? Are you going to have...
Yes, that's why it's very important
They don't even know
to have transparency and that they should know your religious level. If they don't know, because when you go, you try to blend in and pretend you're one of them, they're never going to know, and then you'll always have this struggle. And we spoke about it previously for your friends and your coworkers. If they think that you're just a regular person like them, then they will constantly invite you to their parties, to their events, to their holidays, and you will every year, from year to year, a few times a year, you will have to break your head to find an excuse not to go. If you would only be open with them and explain to them that you are observant Jew and you have these rules, then everything would become so much easier. They would respect you, and you would have so much easier time excusing yourself. So here also, if you tell them in advance, we eat only glad kosher, so right away they know not to invite you to such parties that are in just kosher restaurants. And if you tell them, or they will actually make it in glad kosher because of you. And if you tell them that I don't come to events where there is mixed dancing or women singers, performers, then they will not invite you at all. Or if they invite you and you say no, they'll understand. Or they'll make for you more kosher event.
Okay, but let's say at work, right? So they'll do an annual barbecue, and I would say I don't eat there. Okay, just bring food yourself and just come with the family, just to... So annually I would say no. So it's like, you keep pushing us away. You don't want to be part of the team, even though you're open about it.
So again, you tell them that we made certain rules for ourselves, for our family, and to prevent issues, to prevent mistakes, to prevent that somebody is eating someone else's food by mistake. They'll understand that. We decided not to go to places where kosher and non-kosher food is going to be in close proximity. You can make such an excuse, and as long as you are consistent, you can invite them to a kosher place or a kosher event, but not to go to their events. And again, once you are firm about it, they'll get it, and they're not going to invite you to such events. For example, one of my distant relatives, unfortunately, is marrying a non-Jew. So they didn't send us invitation. They sent to everybody except for us. Why?
They know you're not.
Because they know not only we're not going to come, they know our opinion about this, and they know we're going to get hurt if they send us invitation. They know it's going to be disrespectful to send invitation. So they're not sending invitation. But if we were wishy-washy about it, they would send invitation and they would expect us to come, and then it would be our problem, our trouble to try to get out of it. So by being open, you are you're shifting the blame and trouble on them, and now they have to explain themselves. They know you don't eat in such places. They know you don't attend such events. So why are they inviting? And if they do invite, you can tell them, we've spoken about it before, and you know that we don't go to such events. If there's a possibility for you to do it differently, we'll be happy to come. Or we can come before the event, we can come after the event on a different day, and we can make a separate party for you just to congratulate you and dance with you. But we cannot come to this event. So by being a little bit more firm at the beginning of your relationship with them, you're making it so much easier for the rest of your life. And also about your children. As your children grow, and now their cousins are going to be making haircutting ceremony, bar mitzvah, wedding, and all the other events, birthday parties, you will have constant struggle. What do I say? Do we go? Do we not go? And it's not a good education for your children to be at such events or to be faced with such decisions. So
They'll never know their cousins because we never come.
you can make special play dates. You can make special events in your home or in the kosher restaurants, and invite them and go to them separately without these issues, and just put in extra effort, and they can. And at the end of the day, if their cousins choose to remain not religious and non-supportive of you, non-accepting, so that could be the best thing. Because it's better to be, as they say, it's better to be right, distant, but with good relationship with your close ones, than to be close and fight and hate each other. Chas v'shalom. So long term, it's better to be polite but firm and state your rules.
So I guess then, for me, then it's something personally that I have to get over myself about about accepting not being close with the family.
There are different ways of being close. You can just sit at their party while they're dancing and you feel that makes you close, or calling more often, visiting them more often, one-on-one, developing chavrutot, like partners in Torah or Torah mates, and offering them to learn with you once a week for 15-20 minutes. You can be close with them, sending them gifts, sending them Jewish articles or Jewish books for their birthdays, remembering their birthdays, calling them whenever they or their children have birthdays, encouraging your children to speak to them, to call them, without attending their events. And again, even if they are upset, you have to look at a long-term alternative. Is it better to have upset cousins, but have strong relationship with your children and be strong together in your observance and to be close to Hashem, or to try to satisfy everybody, but at the same time be lost in your relationship with God?
How would I be lost in my relationship with God if I keep my own things?
But he says don't do it, and you're doing it.
Rabbi Sakalov just say you have to
you know, have like a pure like thing and keep yourself attached to
The-
mitzvahs. Like I feel like I don't like to maybe like,
The Pirkei Avot says, that Nitai Harbeli says, Harchek mishachen ra, distance yourself from a bad neighbor. So you might say, you know what, he's my neighbor, let me be close to him, let me be friends with him, maybe I'll influence him. So the Pirkei Avot says, no, distance yourself from, as they say, good fences make good neighbors. Sometimes having some distance actually makes a good relationship. On the other hand, if you are too close to people who don't think like you, don't behave like you, it's not going to be close anyway. You're going to rub them the wrong way. They're going to rub you the wrong way. You're going to have fights. Why do you do this? Why don't you do that? And it's not good for your children to play with cousins that are not religious. In many ways, they will learn bad words from them, bad concepts from them, bad behavior from them. And eventually, as they grow, they will have less and less in common, and they will have less and less to discuss. Your children will be more mature, more thinking, more thoughtful, and serious. And the other cousins are going to be less mature and more childish and not thinking at all. And they will want to speak about topics that your children either don't want to talk about or not supposed to talk about. And then you'll have other issues of how to protect your children. This way you don't have to think about, because your children are already protected.
Okay, how about, can you say to somebody, can you please tell your wife when she comes over to be more modest when she comes to my house?
It's a dangerous thing to say, both for you and for their relationship. It's very difficult for the husband to say to his wife such things, that she should be more modest next time, and it's not good for you. So either you should speak to her and ask her that my children are not used to this, we live in a religious neighborhood, they go to religious school, they only see Jewish women covered, and they get shocked, and they don't understand why their grandmother or their aunt is dressed like a non-Jew, and they think that you're not Jewish, and why don't you dress more in a way they're used to, so that they identify you as a Jew, because really they think that you're not Jewish.
No, because then they say, well, what about the real world? Come on.
The
You
real,
have to be in the real world.
yes,
Because I've done that responsibility.
yes, you're right.
You have to be in the real world.
You're right. In the real world, they understand that not everybody is Jewish. In the real world, they understand that people behave in a not good way. When we drive and we see a homeless person, they know that he's different. When they see women on the street dressed not in the proper way, they know that there is a difference. They see that, but they don't know that their grandmother,
He's one of those women.
right, is a woman that behaves improperly, and it's very difficult for them. And not only that, it's not good for you. You as a grandmother want to have grandchildren that respect you, that look up to you. You don't want them to say, oh, our grandmother is a sinner, our grandmother is ignorant, our grandmother is rebellious. So for your own relationship with your grandchildren, dress the way that they would respect you. So if you say it in a way that you show your concern for her, that it's for her own benefit, that the children, her nieces or nephews or grandchildren or cousins should look at her as a respectable person and not look down on her. And you can say that, yes, I explained to them that they grew up in Soviet Russia and they never went to yeshiva and they just don't know. But for your own sake, why should they think that you're ignorant? At least pretend to dress modestly, pretend to keep mitzvot, pretend to keep Shabbat, pretend to say blessings, pretend to wash hands before you eat, just so that your grandchildren and your nieces and nephews think well of you. They're just children. I cannot control them. They will naturally think that you're not doing the right thing. Otherwise, if you cannot tell them to come dressed modestly, you should only invite them in the winter time, or make sure that the air condition in your house is very low,
Which it is.
so so that you avoid this issue.
It's not really stupid. So the AC's on high, so that they get very cold and have to get dressed.
Yes, and one more idea about the wedding. If you are unfortunately in such a situation where your parents win and they have it their way to have mixed dancing, so then it's a problem for you to dance. So at least what you can do is to between the Kala and Khatan, you can agree to invite a lot of Khatan's friends, at least for the first dance, and they should form the inner circle and dance with the Khatan Kala, put the Khatan Kala on a chair, and they should sit and they will dance. This way, at least the friends and the rabbis and the religious relatives will be able to participate in dancing without seeing everything. And then when they dance afterwards, they can leave. And if the relatives will allow, they can kidnap the Khatan and dance with him separately for the whole wedding.
I mean, I learned in seminary that like you could just be like, I'm not gonna come to my own wedding, or I'm gonna sit out the whole time. You could say that, no?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're
I said that
strong,
before, I'm like,
yes, if you are strong, then you will win, because they will have no choice. They cannot make a wedding without the Kala. So if you're strong enough, and you know, some young men and women don't know that there is another way to make a wedding, and they don't know that they can afford to make a wedding without their parents' support. If they would just be aware of it, they would have more strength to stand up to their parents and say, this is something I cannot give in. I cannot dance without a man. If you want to dance with mixed dances, fine. So make one section just for women, I'll dance there. Make one section just for men, the Khatan is going to dance there. And whoever doesn't care will dance in the middle.